Hey everybody, we are live, or as Britt Musburger, the current radio personality for the Oakland Raiders, used to say when he was on television on CBS, you are looking live at, well, there's nobody here for it to be sold out, my upstairs office studio. And we're here to talk about the third episode of Hard Knocks with the Oakland Raiders, and I'm featuring my newest blogger. Haven't put on to be a vlogger yet, but that could come. At any rate, Joseph Armendariz is the star. Joseph, I didn't mangle your name, right?
No, you didn't. It's Armendariz. It's perfect.
Armendariz. And hey, once again, welcome back. And for those of you who may not be aware, he wrote what is still the front page piece entitled Antonio Brown, Helmet Maker, Shut. Did I pronounce that right? Shut?
Yes, Shut.
Shut says legal error XPQ11 design better for Raiders wide receiver. And so if you watched I always want to say Hard Rocks. I don't know why.
It rolls off the tongue easier.
Yeah, it does. Hard Rocks. It reminds me of Rocks Park, Hard Rocks. Anyway, Hard Knocks with the Oakland Raiders. But oh, by the way, your piece, I was telling you earlier when we were talking in prep for this, Joseph, I told you that your piece was shared 16 times. It was shared 21 times.
Nice.
Yeah. So quite effective. And Joseph is in LA, and I want to put this out early. We talked about this, but I want to get this. I'll talk about it later when there's more of an audience, but I want to focus on the work that you did and everything else. Hey, Joseph, before we talk about Hard Knocks, tell them what you found and what the article was about.
Well, when I felt that I was successful in trying to get a hold of originally one of the athletic trainers about Antonio's feet, I go, well, let me use the same techniques that I use and try to track down information with regards to the helmet. And initially what I first did was contact Shut Corporation, and I was able to receive private cell numbers, not only Mr. McMillan, who's actually the NFL Raiders representative, who actually deals with customization of helmets, fittings, and basically presenting samples and ideas of what's perfect for that particular player in that team. But even prior to that, what I did was try to get a hold of the media relations guy, Glenn Beckman. Fortunately enough, throughout the day, he did return my phone call. And it was just a matter of doing groundwork, doing some investigating, and like always, being persistent. But again, I would always caution anybody who goes into this is that present yourself in a professional manner. I'm very persistent in anything that I do, but I'm also very professional in terms of how I do it. I'm not rude. So I think being polite pays off, and I was able to get a lot of information. I did, and fortunately enough, I was able to have a contact and a source. Because of anonymity, I didn't reveal his name, but he gave me some useful insight in who to actually direct the questions to, and I kind of used that to get the information that I did.
What did you find out? We're on with Joseph Armendariz of LA. He is a Oakland Raiders fan and a New Zenny 62 Media blogger. What? Tell me you in the article, because I'm reading it for the umpteenth time. But you mentioned here that you said that you managed to call a man by the name of Charlie McMillan. And you wrote, my conversation with Mr. McMillan was brief. He would not go into detail regarding Antonio Brown's current helmet situation. I asked Mr. McMillan if it was true regarding 3 or 4 month time frame to create a new mold. He said Charlie refused to answer my question, stating, uh, I'm staying away from answering questions without Glenn Beckman present, and that's the man who handles media marketing communications for Shut, right? And so
Yes.
that's huge. So he calls you back at 2:20
Yes.
at
Glenn
2:30.
Beckman.
Yeah, Glenn Beckman. He calls you back at 2:30 p.m. PST or 2:30 Pacific Standard Time. I guess it was PM. And he says, Mr. Beckman returned your call, and he said that he started the conversation with you with, I can't get into specific details regarding any specific player or team. He evidently received a call from Raiders Shut representative McMillan about my Antonio Brown helmet inquiries. He was able to answer my questions regarding helmets. According to Mr. Beckman, the Air Advantage was created in, he said, 2002, and was the last in a series of helmets to use traditional padding material inside the helmet. Anything else he tell you?
Well, he did say that also the outer shell was a little bit different. The Air XPQ11 mimics as closely the Air Advantage as possible, but because of the types of material they're using, it's actually it's not only going to change, but supposedly the way that helmet is structured is actually structured in a way that is supposed to absorb head shock and absorption a certain way. So even though they try to mimic and try to kind of get the same feel as the very popular Air Advantage, from what I took from Mr. Beckman's explanation is that it is a different way of making the helmet, but it's also different inside. So having said that, you could see why certain players are comfortable with a certain helmet. And maybe this is a discussion for further down the line, but I just truly believe in terms of what the Antonio Brown situation is, I think for the most part, he's a creature of habit. He's been successful with the same helmet he's had since high school. So I think when someone's trying to take that away from you, it's going to be a shock.
Yeah, he feels like, or at least the social media picture he put out was that he was vastly put upon, But I'm wondering how much of that was him putting something out, then in Drew Rosenhaus's agent and others coming back and saying, hey, you need to change your thinking here, because it's not something that you can turn a dime on. I mean, as I understand it, and I remember this from, look, I didn't play much football. I played in high school, as I said on the show before. Hey, Barry Lee, welcome. How you doing? Barry, welcome to, this is Joseph Armendariz. He's the blogger guest for the evening. But at any rate, I wanted to get my plays in, and I did. Okay. But my point is that I remember how uncomfortable, hey, PJ, how you doing? How uncomfortable it was to have a helmet on that slid around your head. And I believe that was a lot of his situation where it doesn't fit snug. And so you got to worry about whether or not it slides and it hits the bridge of your nose or some other undesirable place. And that's a hard thing to deal with. I mean, there are few things in life worse than a helmet that doesn't fit your head right in football. It's a fate worse than death. It really is. All right. So it really is. Hey, so you watched Hard Knocks. What did you think of the episode tonight?
I think, well, what I took away from it, and I know we talked about this while we were prepping, is he doesn't come off like the ungrateful diva that the media tries to portray him as. It appears, at least in my point of view, that not only Mayock, who probably in Gruden have to play good cop, bad cop, I think everybody's on the same page. The actions and the way Antonio presents himself with the team, I think it's above par. Of course, he's going to be angry with the media, so he's going to have certain feelings when the media is approaching him. But the way you see him interacting with the players, with the coaches, and one thing that I took from towards the end of the episode was how he was trying to ingratiate himself with the other players. Giving them Gatorade, serving them cups. That's not a behavior of an ungrateful diva. I mean, he's showing his camaraderie with his fellow teammates, and you could see in that particular statement how much he enjoys not only being around his teammates, but how much he enjoys the game.
Do you think that this is much ado about nothing? How much of this was actually played up for the cameras of Hard Knocks? And how much of this was really live, real, like, oh, we have a concern, and oh my God, he's not gonna, he may not return, and and I asked because I remember that whole jazz about him retiring. He said he never said that. All right, so I'm thinking,
right,
somebody back there is committed to not telling the truth. And I remember my friend Mike Silver wrote a piece, for the NFLnet.com website, which I think broke the story here, because Mike reported last Friday by Twitter. He sent out 12 paragraph tweet, 12 tweets, okay? And then he wrote his hard copy piece for NFL.com, which he put to bed, I think, at 10:30 that night, 10 o'clock that night. At any rate, I don't know that what was the Antonio Brown that was presented in the Mike Silver piece was more the diva than we saw in Hard Knocks at any time to this point. Would you agree?
Yes.
100%. Yeah. So, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, and one thing I wanted to point out was, let's remember, this is entertainment.
Yeah.
And this is a TV show. Now, the one thing, having that film school experience, even if it's a documentary style type of footage or shot or shooting, everything is scripted. Even a documentary, which we think is just, let's go out there and just film. No, everything's scripted. So I wouldn't be surprised if some of these arcs that are going on within this whole series is not scripted or played up. Because there's always a beginning, there's a middle, and there's an end. Hey. And so depending on where we are in the episodes, it's going to follow the same trajectory.
I completely agree. Hey, if anybody wants to make a comment, please do. This is Zinny62 YouTube Live on Tuesday night after Hard Rocks. John Akala pops up, says, so I heard today that Antonio Brown wore an NFL-approved helmet today at practice. Yeah, not only that, though, it's not the first time he's worn an NFL-approved helmet. If you take a look at this, folks, and I'm pointing you to the front of Oakland News Now and the article that Joseph wrote, and that is the focus of our conversation. But look at this photo right here. Look, I want you to pay attention to this right here, okay? All right, look at this. This is on the left. This is by Flipboard. It was taken by Adam Schefter, okay? This is ostensibly the old helmet. On the right, this is Antonio Brown, but as you can see, the helmets are not the same. You see that? That's a newer helmet I've seen a bunch of times. This is the old helmet, okay? So who's to say, that they really had this all resolved anyway? Because he's putting this on now. This is in Arizona, you know what I mean? So I that's why I question the sincerity of the, oh my God, we're surprised, because I didn't think Mike Mayock needed to come out with what he said. And then I know Silver wrote this piece, and much love to my friend, but what Mike put in the piece regarding, he's on Instagram, Antonio's basically not paying attention. That's the message Silver sent out, okay? But on Hard Rocks, particularly tonight, all right? On Hard Rocks, particularly tonight, hey, PJ, I think you need to catch up, because he's got the helmet issue on. In fact, John Gruden had said so in a press conference today. If you didn't hear that, in fact, you may not have heard that. In fact, let me do that, because let me put on the Raider press conference for you to see. because I think it's quite important to get caught up. All right, because you don't even hear this in Hard Rocks. Hard Rocks gives you the impression that the problem is still on, and it's not. So let me show you what's going on with what John Gruden said today, and I'll play for you the presser. Okay, John Gruden. Here's Coach Gruden right now. Excuse me. Let me make sure this is appropriately lined up, and make sure that it's appropriately setting. And it is setting, sort of. I see them smiling, but I don't see them compete. This is something. Wait a second. There it is. Okay. Gruden said he likes the way they're competing, but either that or no. Oh wow. Oh wow. This is slow buffering. Oh man. Let me go here. Okay. Come on. Raiders, get your video act together. Raiders.
You know, I can add a few things while that's loading.
Sure, please do.
You know, going back to the specs of the helmet, one of the big caveats, or one of the big things that Antonio had concerns with was, well, the new Air XPQ11, even though that's the closest thing
BJ,
that
stick around.
mimics Air.
So go ahead. Keep talking.
It's the closest helmet that mimics the Air Advantage.
Mm-hmm.
But the difference are the ventilation holes, the ear holes, and also the face guards. But some of those things can be upgraded. Ironically enough, Antonio Brown's helmet is basically a high school helmet. Now, according to Beckman, there is no difference between a high school varsity helmet and an NFL helmet. They make them exactly the same way. The difference is, it's almost like if you're driving, for example, a Camry, an XL versus an XLE. You're still going to get the same engine, but you get all the bells and whistles on an XLE. So that's basically what you're getting with the professional helmet. There's a slight modifications in terms of face guards. They can use titanium face guards, maybe the color schemes and things of that nature. But for all intents and purposes, it's basically the same as a high school helmet.
Good information. Hey, here's Coach Gruden, folks. Buckle up. 1, 2, 3.
Is that a joke or what? Yeah.
Come on here.
Yeah, he's It's all in. That's what he said.
Steve Antonio was all in since he's here?
Is that a joke or what? Yeah. Yeah, he's It's all in. That's what he said.
Did he practice that?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I gotta ask about that helmet.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
Is it a new helmet?
It's a certified helmet, Vic. So he's all in, ready to go. That's my understanding, and really happy to have him out here. He's a great player.
The helmet aside, how's he running and cutting, and where is he in that part of his game?
Good. He's really good. Yeah, he's showing great retention of what we're doing. He didn't miss the off-season program. He's been here and out of here in meetings, and it's just good to have him back. But he's in great shape. He's running hard and running good routes.
The feet no longer an issue for him at this time?
No, I don't think so. You have to ask him that.
Tyrell Williams has been out the last couple of days. He did.
Yeah, we have a bug going around here. We got a lot of guys that aren't feeling great. I don't know that he'll play or not play right now for the Canada trip.
I think you might have touched on this the other day, but you plan on taking everybody to Canada?
Everybody that's going to, I think, play. You know, we're still looking at our list of injuries and our rotations and finalizing who's going and who's not going. I don't have any final answer right now.
So frontline players that aren't going to play may not go?
I didn't say that.
Okay.
No, I didn't say that.
of an emerging competition to be the swing tackle?
Well, David Sharp's had a good camp. I think Brandon Parker's done an excellent job. He struggled a little bit one series against the Rams, but he played very well against Arizona, playing both positions. He and David are both flipping sides, which is good for their, I think, experience and their role that they're competing for.
Do you expect Derek to play on Thursday?
Don't know yet. Do not know. Like I said, it'll all depend on the health of our team, who's in, who's out.
Have you guys sent somebody else to take a look at the turf?
We have, yes. I heard it's field turf. I didn't examine it myself, but it's a new stadium. It's a great opportunity for us to make some friends.
Is there anything you'll be watching in particular that you want to see from this game?
Well, we've got a lot of players that have worked really hard to put themselves in position to make the team. And this will be the biggest game of their careers in that regard. So we've got a number of guys that are on the cusp of making it, and they need to play well in this game to solidify their position. So, yeah, there's a number of guys that we're anxious to see.
Don, you guys are putting in a lot of work, certainly a lot going on. The Hard Knocks cameras, the headlines. How would you gauge the mentality and the mindset of this
Great.
team?
I wouldn't read into all the Hard Knocks being a distraction or the Antonio Brown distractions. There's been no distractions. We've had 89 guys working hard. Our film is out there for you to watch, our first two games. If you see a distracted football team, then I disagree with you. So I'm not going to make any more of it than that. There's a lot of teams that are missing star players. My brother's missing one. The Cowboys are missing one. Texans are missing one. That's part of this league. Every year there's exceptions that you got to deal with, and I like our team, man. I like the way we're competing. I like the way we're working.
Word out of Green Bay is that Aaron Rodgers is up in the air. Would you like to see him play, just going against a guy like that in the preseason?
Yeah, I think you'd love to see him play. He's a great quarterback, one of the best. And you never know what they're thinking, what they're going to do. You never do know in the preseason, but it'd be great for our young defense to see the best in the business.
That's good.
Nelson's still dealing with the ankle.
Yep, he's got a slight ankle, did not practice today. Don't think it's serious, but don't know that he'll play. It's just hard to give you any real concrete information because we do have a slew of players that are, lingering after the 3 weeks of training camp.
It looked like Abram had a cast on his
Yeah, he's got an irritated wrist. Max Crosby is another guy that has a wrist problem, so we're banged up a little bit. We've had a physical training camp, and hopefully some of these guys are able to make the trip.
Is your mindset any different on this game because it's in Canada than it will be able to?
No, not really. We'll treat it like a normal road game. Like I said, we have to respond to a tough schedule. We're going to fly a lot of hours this year, and we're going to play home games in foreign countries. Which doesn't sound right, but that's the facts. All right?
This stuff is behind you guys. Would you say it's a relief? Are you relieved that it's behind you, or has it been?
It's not been a distraction to me at all. I mean, I hate to break it to anybody, but we've known what the status is regarding his feet. He just showed up with frostbite. I've never had a guy show up with frostbite. And unfortunately, we got that thing under control. And this grievance thing is no laughing matter. It's something that's really important to him. And there's nothing wrong with supporting your players on things that they believe in. We also understand the league's position, but I'm confident that he's going to be a heck of a player for us and be ready to roll.
All right, so folks, there it is, and all right. So sorry for the slight camera shake there. I was just making some adjustments, but you heard Coach Gruden, and hey, so Joseph, what'd you think?
I think that exactly what was viewed on the episode, the same sentiments. I think it's a lot of nothing. I think Donald Richardson said it best when he texted on the response, a few days ago or a week ago, smoke and mirrors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he's absolutely. I think he gets on this issue the comment of the series, because at the end of the day, it's like nothing, and then you could really rightfully point to some of this being egged on by the media, but then also, like Mike Silver's my friend, He's one of the best media people in NFL history.
I
Legendary.
did have some questions about him when you have a chance.
Say again, please.
I did have some questions with regards to Mike Silver.
Oh, okay. I'm trying to get him on. I had him on before, but NFL's being tighter now. So I'll ask. The worst they can say is no. But wait. Just say what those questions were. Share them with us if you don't mind.
Well, actually, the question I had was mainly for you with regards to Mike Silver.
Mm-hmm.
You've actually known him, and he's a fellow Berkeley guy.
Yeah, I've known him since he was 18 and I was 22. Yeah.
Now, we know the media always wants to hate on the Raiders. I'm assuming Mike Silver's not one of those guys. So my question would be, what did he see that we're not seeing or that we thought differently?
Let me. I didn't mean that. I did mean that. Okay, let me explain it why I reacted that way. Mike has a long history with the Raiders that he has not allowed to come into his coverage today, but it was certainly there when Mr. Davis was alive, Mark Davis's dad. And what happened was that Al Davis did not like a critical article that Mike put out about the organization, and banned him from Raiders training camp. Now this happened in 1994, and at that time Mike and Leslie lived on Estes Avenue in Oakland. Just if you're a Raider fan, you should know Oakland. But I'm just saying, if you don't know Oakland, you're a Raider fan, which is okay. Oakland Piedmont Avenue is one of the central spines, and Piedmont Avenue connects basically the hills to the upper downtown, and Estes is one of the streets that was off Piedmont. That's where Mike and Leslie lived. This was 1994.
Is that Berkeley Hills area? I've been in Berkeley Hills.
No, it wasn't Berkeley. It's Oakland.
Oakland.
It's Oakland. It's
okay.
Oakland. It's smack in the middle of Upper Oakland. Not quite. You could basically, if you go up Piedmont to basically 41st and Pleasant Valley, there is a famous bar on the end. It's now called the Kona Club. That used to be called the King's X, and a lot of Raiders used to hang out there, including on occasion Ken Stabler. And if you go on the other end of it, Piedmont runs into MacArthur Boulevard, and then MacArthur runs into Broadway. You turn left on Broadway, and boom, you're in downtown Oakland. Well, first you're in uptown Oakland, uptown district. First, and then you go through what we used to call Broadway Auto Row, but is now being transformed into the next great yuppie neighborhood in Oakland, with thousands of market rate housing units. But I digress. My point is, Mike and Leslie lived in that area, and when he wrote what he wrote, he got a rock thrown through their front window. And so I was a columnist for the Montclarian. My first job in media, my background was in city planning and public finance and urban economics. Not being a journalist, okay, but the Montclarian made me one of their featured columnists, and at that time I had arguably the most popular column in Oakland. So I wrote about what the Raiders had done and what Al Davis had done. All right. So Mike goes back that far. He was writing then with the Marin IJ, the Marin Independent Journal, and he was with the Santa Rosa Press Democrat before that, and then he went to Yahoo Sports, and then he went from Yahoo to the NFL Network. In fact, he got the job. No, excuse me. He went from Yahoo. He went from the Santa Rosa Press Democrat to the Marin IJ, then the Marin IJ to Sports Illustrated, because he got the Sports Illustrated job by getting the editor of Sports Illustrated drunk at a Super Bowl party, and that's how he did it. So a lesson that, building relationships helps over cocktails, and Mike was the master of that. And so Mike's first big splash when he was hired on to be a Sports Illustrated senior writer was Dennis Rodman. And what Mike did was Mike met Dennis Rodman at a bar, and they had all kinds of drinks, and that was basically it was a first person account of what it was like to get drunk with Dennis Rodman, okay, and that put Mike on the map like that. And so he's broken a ton of stories since then, but he's gotten to know very closely like Aaron Rodgers and his family, because Aaron went to Cal, and Mike was the sports editor at the Daily Cal, and prior to Aaron Rodgers, so Mike had a number of people at the Daily Cal who knew him, and so Mike is also arrogant as I am, but Mike is even more so because he's there. But Mike's really in the Cal, and we're all in the Cal. We're all really massively in the Cal, and so that's Mike Silver. Okay, his wife Leslie, Mike Leslie, Greg, and I. We've all known each other since we were in our teens and early 20s. All right, and in my case, I met them when I was in grad school in 1986 through a mutual friend, Brian Fitzpatrick, who went to the Rolling Stones concert with them last weekend, Sunday. And we're all still friends, good friends, and we talk or text quite frequently. So, yeah, I mean, they're my family, my posse. When I turned 50, Greg came, Mike couldn't because he was on assignment. Those are my friends. And so I lived that stuff with him regarding the Raiders. But when Mark Davis became the owner, they mended fences, and Mike had access again, and everything was cool. So I don't think, let me take the I don't think out of my sentence. Mike didn't write something where he was trying to be anti-Raider or anything like that. If that helps frame your question or how you're thinking about it, Joseph.
Mm-hmm.
Does that help?
No, yeah, it does.
Yeah.
I was just, because I mean, from what his article had read, the way you read his article, it just didn't seem that way. Of course, of what we see, but of course, we don't see every minute detail or what's going on behind the scenes. But I get a different perspective watching these episodes.
Yeah, no, I don't think. Let me put it that. I keep saying I don't think. I don't know why. That was hard for him to do because I can say as much as I think he got some flack for it. He broke a story that was difficult to break. The story had people giving accounts to him who didn't want to have their names used, okay? Who said, hey, he's in these meetings, he's on Instagram, he's doing this. And the article in total painted a picture of a person that we have been brainwashed to think of as a diva. African American, flamboyant, male, very good at being a wide receiver. I mean, let's just put it out there for what it is, okay? Racism. All right? But the truth is that he's not that. Antonio Brown is not that. And he's sensitive, but I don't know of anybody who was good at what they do who wasn't sensitive. He's an artist, right? And I think there was a lot of, it was even written here by PJ. He's like, it was like, just shut up and play. Well, you can't really do that today. The media, because of its design, doesn't let you. And when I say media now, I mean it's not professional media. I mean social media, because social media has changed everything. Everything. And so let me give you an example of how much media impacts a player, all right? And how people think about a player. Donald Penn. Now, a lot of people don't know this. Donald Penn's but Raider fans are aware of it. And, of course, Donald Penn is now with the Redskins. But there was a guy named Sal who used to watch this. I don't know if Sal's watching now. But Sal, for reasons best known only to Sal, decided he was going to screw with Donald Penn on Instagram. And I read, and we talked about on this show, I read what he wrote. And so, are you there? Is he there? Are you there? Oh, hold on a second. Whoops. Wait a minute. Okay. All right. So, hey, we're live, folks. We're back. What happened was the Skype system shut down accidentally. I got Joseph back, and we're back, and that's what happened. So it was a hiccup, and we are live. We're back. So come on back. And if anybody has access to social media, send out a tweet and say, hey, we're back. We didn't go anywhere. At any rate.
So you were talking about Donald Penn.
Yeah, Donald
local
Penn.
LA guy, by the way.
Right, yeah. Donald, a local LA guy, that's right. Donald Penn and Sal. Sal used to watch this. I don't know. I hope he's well. I don't know. Maybe he just went off to college or whatever. I don't know. I hope he's well. I don't know. Maybe he just went off to college or whatever. Or someplace else. He's past college. At any rate, Sal went to Instagram after a particularly rough stretch of games for Donald Penn when he was our left tackle. And he said some nasty things about him. Okay? And Donald Penn wrote back some, I wouldn't say equally nasty things, but I would say that they were pugilistically direct. Okay? Let me cut to the chase. Donald Penn told Sal to meet him in the parking lot. He wrote that on Instagram. In other words, he wrote that on Instagram. So meet me in the parking lot. All right, that's what he wrote. And it was not. It wasn't the best look for Donald Penn. Sal is like 22, 23.
Tiny compared to.
It takes a little time to get things back, but spin. Okay. Can you see the screen?
No.
Is it?
I have a black screen.
Yeah, so do I. I don't know why that's occurring. Oh, here we go. We are back now.
There you go.
All right, we're back. Hey, folks, sorry about the screen and YouTube. It's a little weird, but hey, it's clear now. It's clear now. Okay, now we can finish talking. All right, now it's clear. I'm going to put out a tweet letting everybody know that we are here and say helmet issue. All right, so anyway, Sal, as I was saying, Sal challenged Donald Penn, and basically by calling him all kinds of words that Donald Penn did not take kindly to, basically the B word, all right, and several variations of that. And it was not Sal's best look, and he admits now that he was wrong. Okay, but there's a video out to this day of Donald Penn in his Bentley Continental. All right, Donald Penn doesn't drive a Hyundai. Donald Penn doesn't drive a VW Beetle. Donald Penn does not drive in a Chevrolet Impala, although I like the Chevrolet Impala myself. No, Donald Penn doesn't even drive. Hey, Doug Davis. Donald Penn doesn't even drive a Lincoln Continental, or maybe the classic Mark series. Oh no. Donald Penn drives a car that says, in one sentence, I am rich. Okay?
Yep.
That's exactly what it says. And it's black. And it says, excuse me. I think more appropriately it says, I is rich. All right? A Bentley Continental. 4-door. Sweet. He drives up in this thing. Black windows. Okay, blacked out. Alameda County Sheriff's around. He doesn't care. He stops the car very calmly. He gets out of the car. He goes over to a Salad. Salad's waving. Sounds like, yeah, I'm right here. I'm right here. And Donald Penn was going to go after him. And he was stopped by other fans. And then the police, the sheriffs came over and applied the cooler heads that needed to be applied, okay? And I say all that to give you a solid picture of how media, social media, has, and our obsession with it, has allowed people to communicate in a way that oftentimes, I believe, is more often than not unhealthy than healthy. And I believe that Donald Penn would have been a better tackle had that not happened to him. And I don't mean that incident. I mean all the stuff that he was getting from Sal and others prior to that. Okay? But that's where things have changed. And that impacted this whole situation with Antonio Brown and everything else. And I don't think we've had a handle on how to properly work it out because the technology keeps changing on top of that, and we keep changing as a result. So, but it's an example of how the relationship between player and fan has changed, and how that impacted also this Antonio Brown situation and how people think about Antonio Brown, but also how people can counter a media view of Antonio Brown.
Well, you know, if you take it this way too, with regards to Antonio Brown and what we get from the media in terms of his being a diva and so forth, that's always been the case for great players. Think about it. It's just that we're so on everything because of social media. But think about what they used to say about Randy Moss. Mm-hmm. Think about what they used to say about Jerry Rice. Think about what they used to say about number 42, Ronnie Lott. Mm-hmm. Think about what they used to say about Romanowski. There's certain players that have that mentality, and that's why they're as great as they are, if you really think about it. For whatever reason, whether it's justified or not, that's just the way it is.
Yeah. Well, I think,
and if you look through history, each player has a similar type of situation going on in their own time frame.
But, you know, I agree with you. However, there is one little caveat to that, and I do have to blame Antonio Brown 1,000,000% for this. And it's the stream of videos he put out trying to attack the Steelers while he's with the Raiders. I mean, the guy is done with the Steelers, you would think. But it was not less than 3 weeks ago that he put out this video outlining the whole story about, you know, what Ben did to him that was wrong and how Ben has treated players and all. It's a history, right? And how do I know this? I've subscribed to Antonio Brown's YouTube channel. Video popped up. I watched it. Are you kidding me? I mean, it was okay. I have to wonder, though, why it always seems like Antonio Brown, when he hires trainers or when he hires video people, they're always these white guys. I have never seen any evidence of Antonio Brown having hired anyone black to work for him. I'm just putting that out there, okay? If you know otherwise, or if you're Antonio Brown, you let me know. But I have never seen that. I'm thinking, does he have something against hiring black folks to work for him? I'm just wondering. You know, he's got chefs. I mean, is it all the same deal? There's some people who have that issue. You know, it's not a good thing. I remember I worked for someone years ago whose name shall not be repeated in this context, but they used to say the white man's ice is colder. And I'm thinking, does Antonio really believe that? because he seems to act that way now in terms of his associations. It's different, but I'm wondering. All right, I'm wondering. Okay, so I'm just wondering about that. But that said, hey. So anyway, I want to get back to Joseph. For those of you who don't know, and you're just joining us, Joseph Armendariz, who's on the line, wrote the piece that is on the front page right now of OaklandNewsNow.com, and it's called this one. It's called Antonio Brown Helmet Maker says legal error, XPQ11 design better for Raiders wide receiver. Okay, but what you don't know about Joseph is that Joseph is disabled, and Joseph is in need of a kidney donor. And I'm not springing that. I talked to Joseph and got his permission to put that out there, and that's exactly what I'm doing. And I'll repeat that. Joseph Armendariz. Joseph, you still with us?
Yeah.
Yeah. Joseph is in search of a kidney donor, and I'm putting his email in the chat right now. What's your email again? You want
Help for specifically for the kidney inquiries? It's helpjosephlive@gmail.
Help Joseph live at gmail.com. And hey, Joseph, tell him your requirements and the history and what's happened here, because it never ceases to amaze me the amazing people that I meet doing this and their stories, and Joseph is one of them. Joseph, tell your story, please.
Well, we talked briefly. It's really hard for me to come out and say it because I've always been a very private person, but I'm in such a desperate situation where I have to put myself out there, and make myself a billboard. I'm the walking and talking billboard. So it's come to the point where I'm doing more than 12 hours every day of dialysis. So I know it doesn't put a toll on your body. I mean, if you don't have the strong mindset, man, you're taking down this really dark tunnel because you don't know what your future is going to be, and you're dealing with your mortality every day. That's your life support is that machine that you're hooked up to. And one of the reasons that we talked about is I hate bringing it up because in my personal experience, people tend to not only look at you differently, but they start to devalue you. And that's the hardest thing. Because why was I okay before you knew I had this problem? It's not contagious. You can't pass it to anybody else. It's just something that just happens. And at this point, we don't know why it happened. But it's there. And it's just how you manage it and how you move forward. I think what a lot of people have trouble with is if you see me, or even, you have my picture, I don't look like I desperately need a transplant. So I don't get very many people wanting to help. And it is what it is, but at the same time, it's very sad. Because I do want to live. I don't want to die. And that's kind of a situation that I'm in.
Hey, what is the time frame to get you a kidney donor?
Well, as soon as possible, because there's still a process. Mm-hmm. I'm O positive, so anybody could get tested by wanting to get tested. One thing that I wanted to emphasize is that I totally understand just the idea, like, oh my God, he's asking for a living donor to give a part of me away. Mm-hmm. Now, I spoke to several doctors, many who are scientists as well as doctors, and what I had shared with you is that many of these people are science people. They're not necessarily religious or spiritual people. But an interesting thing that my doctor told me was, there's a reason why God gave us two kidneys. Because we basically just need one to live 100% normal life. And he goes, there's a reason why we have two. And his thought was, it's meant to help somebody else. Because 2 is great, but 1 is just as good. Right? And so that's why when they ask somebody, are you willing to be a living donor? Now with the way technology is, it's an easy process to do as opposed to what was even 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And the turnaround for the person donating the kidney, it's not very long. You probably know recently Selena Gomez, that's the thing, is that she's young, she's pretty, she's a girl. Everybody wants to help somebody who's rich and famous.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I always joke around with people and say, I wish I was a pretty girl, because I'm sure in the snap of a finger, I would have people wanting to help me. And her trainer that gave her the kidney, 2 weeks later, she was out working out again. So it's amazing.
Doug
What could
Davis
be done?
Doug Davis has a question. He asks, and I think you answered it, but let me ask again. He asks, what is the criteria? What would disqualify me from a donation?
Well, obviously, I'm not a doctor. Obviously, what I would say is that generally to be generally healthy. The great thing about anybody who's willing to help me out, once you email me at helpjosephwilliam@gmail.com, I can forward you the information that you need. I am registered at Cedars-Sinai in Los Angeles, and they do all the testing at no cost to the donor, including the surgery and everything preceding that, or even afterwards, aftercare, because they realize that you're helping somebody else. So in return, my insurance covers that person willing to not only test, but during the hospital visits, the procedures, and the aftercare.
So there you go, Doug Davis. So it's a process where they go in and evaluate you, essentially. It really does. Do you have a website for this, or maybe we need to set one up for you?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
All I have is that email. Maybe you will not be interested in knowing this. With all the work I did, even for this article, I don't even have a computer.
What?
I'm old school with pen and paper. And to write that article, I had to go to the public library and use a computer because I don't even have a computer.
Oh, man. Oh.
And,
He did a lot of work,
the thing
folks.
about it is, I was happy that I was able. Writing has always been somewhat easy for me, and I enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
So when I sent you, that was a second draft, and I was limited in time at the public library because they only give you 1 hour increments, and I convinced them to give me an extra hour so I could get this article finished.
Oh.
So I throughout my life, I've moved mountains with little I have.
Hey, Doug Davis he says, what prior diseases do you have?
Well, I really didn't have any. Now, one of the things that I am totally against is Coca-Cola refreshments,
Mm-hmm.
soda,
Mm-hmm.
because that has always been my vice.
Sure.
And dark sodas have a chemical called phosphoric acid, and that eats up your kidneys. It can't get processed easily as it would naturally through dairy products. But phosphoric acid is a kidney killer.
Oh, okay.
There's all things that, and one of the things that we thought was, not only did I tell you about this kidney situation, about I had a work-related accident where I had a severe injury, and it could be the infections that I had when I had that accident could have also triggered that. So it might have been like a sleeping giant that just woke up, and it might be genetic. But yeah, it could be diet. It could have been I was undiagnosed with other items. I don't have any sugar problems. I'm sure at one point you probably do,
Mm-hmm.
if you're heavier and whatnot. But at this point, everything's stabilized in terms of blood levels and things like that. But it's just the kidneys that are just collapsing. But it's ironic that the kidneys are like a domino effect. It affects everything else. It could affect your heart. It could affect every other organ in your body.
No, Doug Davis says, no, what diseases can a donor have, or I guess how sick can the donor not be? I guess I would think I
Uh,
would just think you know the answer to that question. If you don't have anything that's contagious, I mean, you're good to go,
right.
right? I mean, I don't think it's a
Yeah, once the email, like I said, if they're interested at helpjosephlive@gmail,
Mhm.
there's a process where I can give them the numbers to Cedar Sinai, and they have a direct contact where they actually ask you a few questions before they go through the process of testing.
Well, I will certainly put out a separate blog post on this, and I'll have a running Twitter tweet that repeats on a daily basis, if not hourly, depending on what I can get away with, so that people will know, hey, you're out there, you are looking for a kidney donor. So folks, if you know of anybody, if you can help Joseph yourself, please reach out to him via email. Help Joseph live @gmail.com. Got it? Am I right, Joseph?
And can I add something as well?
Yeah, always.
Regardless if you're O positive or not, if you're A or AB, please test as well, because what happens is that not only could you help somebody else, but also, say for example, we have someone who tested and they're A. The fact that they're willing to be a living donor, it's almost a quid pro. They'll give a kidney for me, a fine one. They'll expedite their search because I found a donor for somebody else.
I get you. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Hey, so folks, it is 12:27. Joseph, stick around for a second. I just want to go through some post-show notes. Folks, I'll be back tomorrow. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you. Don't quite know what the subject's going to be. Well, it'll be NFL, but we'll see, okay? Thanks a lot. All right, Joseph, stick around.
All right. Thank you.